Hello, my narcissistic abuse family. This video is gonna be so great. I mentioned this a long time ago, and finally, I have my guest. The man, the myth, the legend that does my hair, all of our home improvement. This is my husband, Joe. So, I wanted Joe to be on here because the topic that we're going to talk about is how my toxic upbringing impacted our relationship initially. I think we've come a long way, but when I met Joe, it was in college, and I was not aware of exactly what was going on in my home. Like, I knew I was miserable around these people, but I didn't know about narcissistic abuse. Ironic because I majored in psychology, but later in life, I've learned all the ins and outs of this type of abuse. But so when Joe and I met, it was back in college, and I wasn't ready for this type of unconditional, genuine love. This is gonna be a sensitive topic at times, but so I broke up with Joe several times before we were able to, really get on the right track through no help of my narcissistic family. But I just wanted you to get the perspective from my husband about a partner, basically the challenges that we faced as a couple because of my toxic upbringing. Our dog is here too, puppy. But all right. So ironically, actually, last night we were going through our nightstand stuff. We were cleaning things out, and we found a book that Joe gave me back in college, one of the times we broke up, and it was all about love and intimacy. So, maybe Joe wants to start by talking about the way the hang-ups that I had in terms of communication and affection. Those were big hurdles that we had to overcome as a couple. Joe?
Yeah, hurdles is a good way to put it, I guess. More like mountains, but we'll start with hurdles. Well, we met, we were very young, so we were just teenagers, really. I had come from a single parent home, but my mother was very loving and caring, so, sharing feelings and, expressing our love for each other was second nature. So then I meet this one and instantly was attracted and infatuated with her. I was like, I gotta meet her, I gotta date her, blah, blah, blah. And then we start dating and we're having a good time and everything, but yeah.
We had no trouble with physicality, with physical affection.
No, but I'm a very
expressive,
lovey-dovey, huggy, kissy person, and she was not anything but that when we were younger. She's come a long way. She's a lot better now, but that was one thing that I noticed right away. And having come from a family of love and things of that nature,
his mom was amazing.
This whole thing with her family is totally foreign to me, and it's taken probably, we've been married now 12 years, so now it's very...
It really came to light last year.
Yep.
So within the last year,
But for someone who's dating somebody or in a relationship with someone who is a victim of narcissistic abuse, it can be very frustrating for the partner, and it takes a long time, to see and understand things for yourself, because she can say things to me and about
he sees it now. Like, initially, we all say this, that outsiders of narcissistic abuse cannot appreciate or understand how truly toxic and malicious these people are. Truthfully, like, most people can't even wrap their heads around it. So it wasn't until these people, all they do is fortify their reputation and how they appear to outsiders. So Joe was just another member of the audience initially. They were just trying to swindle him into thinking that, everything was perfect family, but now that we've been married and he has seen the impact.
Right. Like, I remember when we were younger, and I guess when we started dating, like the third time or after the second time she broke up with me, that was another issue with this whole thing. We probably broke up like 3 times, where she broke up with me 3 times, and it all had to do with this. Some of them were just like crazy breakups. I was like, what the hell is going on? And she's
it made
crazy.
No sense.
She was crazy. And that's where I was coming from. I don't know what the hell's going on. Everything's going good, and then she's like making up these excuses that were ridiculous for us to break up. And I was like, whoa, what? Everything's going fine, and all of a sudden we're like in a car and it crashed. I was like, now we're not together? Let me finish. You brought me on. I'm like, yes, let me talk. So
I recently learned something that I think is important to add here. That a lot of people that are victims of this type of abuse self-sabotage. So when you're actually
that's what I was getting at.
A good, loving relationship, you don't know how to receive it. My thought was that this was just foreign territory to me. I didn't know how to receive or give love unconditionally. But another element to that is that a lot of people self-sabotage because you don't think you deserve this kind of love and happiness. Back to you.
Very frustrating for me. I was ready to be with her and get married when we met. We were like teenagers. I was ready to go full force, finish school, get married, and start all that. But obviously this stuff was going on in the background that I had no idea about. I remember one of the last times that we were broken up, I would remember talking to her, trying to have a better relationship with her mother, because I lost mine when I was in my early 20s. So I said, it's the only mom you got. You should try to have a good relationship with her, not fully understanding what's going on. So seeing it, now, what we're at now with this whole thing, I understand why I said it then, but also wish I hadn't said something like that, because it's absolutely disgusting the way that she gets treated. So, having seen all this now and getting to where we are now, it's been a long time. Not only with...
It is possible to overcome these issues, particularly when you have a loving partner.
Well, that's true, but it also takes persistence on the person's other end to, understand that, there's an issue. And even if the only reason we really made it before we understood what was going on is because I just was, in love with you. So I just kept going and going and going. And obviously there were moments where I know who she is as a person. So you knew it was like a hurdle. It was like a blockage sometimes that she had to get over. You didn't know what it was before all this happened, but, understand now why it's happened, you get the full picture. So now when she is a little standoffish or whatnot, I totally understand why. So it's not an issue in our relationship at all. So I think we've come a long way with that. The other thing is that was big was like when we first found out about it, or I learned about all this and seen it and put all the dots together. It was hard for me with our kids and her parents because they have had a relationship. So,
a very superficial touch and go, out of convenience for the narcs. I mentioned this in another video. I'll link that at the end about how going no contact will impact your children. And I did briefly mention that it's, when you have a spouse, another parent involved, that it's a decision. That's another factor in your decision, and oftentimes the other parent's like, I don't know that this is the right thing to do in terms of cutting off the relationship with your children.
Yeah, it's not easy, but if you're on the same page about it and you understand what's going on, you can come to an agreement about how to handle things like that. It's not easy. I mean, we had some arguments and stuff about it, but in the end, we did what's right for them and for her and for us, and I couldn't be happier. And now, when all this stuff comes up, it's like we just go at it with each other, talking about how disgusting and vile those people are. And you start looking back on things, and I did, like, through the 12 years that we've been married, and even before when we were dating, and I remember instances of ways they've acted, and I was like,
it makes sense.
It makes sense why because there was always something. It was like there's something weird about them. I just couldn't put my finger on it. And then when I finally learned about all this through moi, I was like, oh, okay. And now you see everything, and you just feel even more comfortable in the decisions that you made to get where you are.
So the biggest hurdle, I think, that impacted our relationship was like, we're conditioned to stuff our feelings inside and like to dismiss how we're feeling, and we don't express ourselves because communication is non-existent in a narcissistic unit. And that is absolutely orchestrated by the narcissist, head of household, whatever parent it might be. So I brought that to the table, in terms of our relationship, meaning that I was not very expressive. I was not able to communicate. And one of the pillars of a good relationship is communication. And thanks to Joe, I was able to improve that. So it was communication, expressive, and, expressing affection. That's another element that is missing from a narcissistic unit. When you're brought up in this toxic environment, you don't share affection with your family, with your parent, someone that's supposed to be nurturing you and loving you, and they just don't. So it's like it's kind of a foreign concept to you. So that was another, I don't know.
Yeah, you had a hard time like opening up to that, and just whether it's holding hands or give a kiss or a hug, like I just almost like cold, I would say, but right, at times, and I'd be like, what did I do? I don't understand. I'm like throwing myself at her at times, and it's like I feel like she doesn't, in the past, like, I guess she doesn't like me, or she's not attracted to me. Right,
like that was how he interpreted,
sure,
my issues, because this is how we're conditioned. We are like brainwashed into like not feeling like we're deserving of like a meaningful, substantial relationship, affection, and everything that comes with it. So that was one of our biggest issues, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. And we got to a point where, like I said, when when I understood all of this, it just opened up a crazy door of emotion and everything. Because we have kids, and I just can't even imagine not having a relationship with them when I'm older. I can't imagine not, hugging or kissing them or telling them I love them and stuff. We do it every day.
I love that about Joe, is that our parenting style is like totally in sync with each other. And regardless of our different upbringings, we come together and we have a common goal with our children, is that we value our family and we value our children, and we have the utmost respect for them and appreciation. And it's so much more meaningful, having come from the garbage that I came from. It's like I treasure our family so sincerely, and so does Joe. And
yeah, I think that's something that's like important too, is because you, having been victims of these disgusting, vile pieces of garbage, you can go to one or two ways. You can either continue to, be closed off and just have that feeling that you're, anything that's good, you're going to self-sabotage, or you have a hard time opening up because you're conditioned that way. Or you have the opposite effect, like she's so loving and caring with the kids, and she's always been that way. It's like she knew she came from a crap family, so she took that negative and poured it into a positive thing with her kids. And I've never seen her not be anything but kind and loving, and just, trying to hug and kiss the kids all the time. So, that was a good thing that you didn't like continue to be closed off.
Right, and I think a lot of people are fearful of what kind of parent they're going to be.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
After this type of, abusive upbringing.
I think when you go through anything trauma-wise, you either do one of two things. You either you either sink or swim. You do the complete opposite. Like for me, like when my dad left when I was like 9 or 8 years old, and never made contact with us again or had anything to do with my brother or I remember I couldn't wait to have family, but I will never ever treat my kids like that. I can't even imagine leaving my kids. So, whereas,
and he's the best dad ever.
Where some people might, have that situation be a repetitive, repeating behavior and have kids, and then they're like, all they know is, well, my dad left, so I'm leaving. So for when you have a traumatic thing like that, it can do one of two things. You either continue the behavior, or you say, I know I'm not going to be like that. And you have obviously picked the latter on that one. You definitely love and support and kiss and hug the kids as much as possible. So that's good. So the only one who kind of got screwed out of this whole thing early on was me. I had to do all the deep digging and work on this one three times. He really
carried us through all these breakups because of my issues.
I bust her chops and we laugh about it, but I knew there was a reason why. Like, it could have been easy for me to say, you know what, screw her, I'm not getting involved with her again from the last time. But I knew there was something there between us. I just, when you feel something like that, you don't just throw it away.
We're meant to be.
Yeah.
So I was talking about this forever ago, and we finally got to sit down and make this video. I'm so excited. So this is my other half, and I hope this was of value to you guys. See, we're bumped and we're bruised, but more than anything, we're blessed. I'm so blessed. My husband and our family, and I'm so grateful, and it's possible to overcome all this garbage that we've been up against for, the first half of my life, basically. But thanks, Joe.
Yeah, anytime.
Wait.
What? Are we done? We're done.